Hey everybody, Justin Dunn in my electronics workshop. So, I finally found an affordable Heath kit. This is the IP-32. It's a regulated power supply, very handy for experimenting with tube amplifier and experimentation type of use, where you may need up to 400 volts at 100 milliamps or 125 milliamps max, as well as a bias supply of 0 to a negative 100 at 1 milliamp. So it's actually a pretty handy benchtop power supply for the experimenting of vacuum circuits, vacuum tube circuits such as 12 AX7, 12 BY7, 6 AU6s, 6 L6s, 6 any amplification circuit that you don't exceed the current capabilities of this particular set. I had ordered one sometime back, and it's actually under my bench. It ended up being a parts unit because the high volt power supply transformer had apparently in that one had gone completely bad. Like they must have had that thing shorted out or running a heavy load for a very long time. So it ended up being kind of pretty much a parts unit. The meters all still worked, even though the backs were kind of melted and droopy looking. The tubes were, for the most part, looking like they were functional. But anyway, I found this one on eBay, made an offer on it. The seller said yes. I smiled. I paid promptly, and here it is. It wasn't packaged all that well, to be honest with you. It was just kind of thrown in with some bubble wrap, and they didn't really wrap it up or do anything. The cord had been cut off of it, which is usually a tall tale sign of that's real great. I love it when you buy a piece of equipment and the cord's cut off of it, because it usually means it doesn't work, or they cut it off because they just didn't know. But anyway, it arrived, and it seems to be all in one piece. All the tubes are still in it. Most of them still say Heath kit. The 6L6s that are in here are still all Heath kit branded, which is kind of cool to see. But I am going to, it was missing one knob. I'm going to try to find one to put in there. They may not be exact, but if I can find a matching set of knobs for this, that would be kind of cool. I know I have my parts unit that I could always use for the knobs off of that. But anyway, I might end up just taking that old parts unit and building a better supply out of it or something. We'll see. It's not a big pertinent gotta get it done situation. I think for now I'm just gonna stick a knob on it. Doesn't have to be the right one. So yep, we'll use this one. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and make that happen. Oh, of course. Okay, I need this. I think I can make that happen. This is just kind of a quick, I'm just doing this just to have it, so I have a knob on the switch. That is kind of the most important to have a knob on at the moment. It's in pretty good shape, considering. That'll work. Good enough for now. A few things, I already kind of dove into this a little bit. I hate to jump on things that I'm trying to show in video, but it did have a burned out bulb. Pilot light was burned out of it, so I went ahead and replaced it. It had a number 47 installed in it, so I found another number 47 I had in my bin of spares. Popped that in there. We're going to go start with everything down at 0, switch off. Let's go ahead and plug it in. The cord was cut off of it. I went ahead and just temporarily put a cord back on it. The fuse was missing, as well as the fuse holder, so I replaced the end piece of the fuse holder. I had one in my bin, so we have a fuse holder and a 3 amp fuse spec'd correctly. Okay, so again, like I said, what this is, it's a high volt supply with a negative supply tied to it as well, so you have everything you need for most testing on the bench purposes. It also has a 3.3 volt AC up to 4 amp filament supply built in. It does not have a 12.6 or 12 volt filament supply, so when you're working with those 12 volt filaments, you may have to provide your own. And I think I may build a different type of bench supply, maybe out of that other Heath kit supply itself, to kind of use for filament use. So 12 volt, maybe 24, maybe add some extra stuff to it just so it's a little more useful. Okay, let's start with it on standby. Pilot light on, that's great. I do have this connected to my variable supply isolation with current limiting is off at the moment, so it's not giving me any current limiting. I had to take down my light bulb stack for a different project, so I will have to build something a little bit more comparable for that type of use in the future. That's another project. Okay, and the filaments are glowing. Let's kick it on. Okay, let's check the negative supply and see if we have some action here, and we do. All the way up to about 125 volts according to the meter. That's good. We'll drop that back down. So we'll switch over to the high volt supply. And we're only getting about 62 volts out of it, topped out. So there's something wrong with this side of the power supply, but let's verify that with a meter. Make sure that we are having some issues here. And let's go to DC. This meter is good to 500 volts max, so we should be okay. We're showing almost 3 volts. And we're up to 67 pretty quickly. It doesn't have a lot of granularity to it, so I'm assuming we probably have something going on here, but topped out it's 68 volts, so that's not right. Let's see if the filament supply is working. So from here to here we have 6.56. That's about right. So common to common, ground, which would have a jumper if we needed to have a shared ground. So weird that we do not have full voltage on that. I'm going to go ahead and carefully flip this over. Again, if you're following along, you're doing so at your own risk. I will not accept responsibility for your zippity-zappeting yourself into Bolivian and back if you're lucky to be back from it. So let's go to AC again. Let's check the rails and see if the transformer is doing its job. So let's look at the red leads first. This should be the high volt supply. 584, that's good. So it should be higher than 400, which it is. Let's look at the next supply. And that's going to be from here to here. That is 5.8. So that's a filament supply, I believe. Let's look at, this is a filament supply here. 6.2, that's fine. Let's have a look at this. 6.2, that's another separate filament supply. They actually have isolated supplies, which is awesome. And then they got the beefed up one right here. 6.5, that's fine. Let's look at, so that goes to there. Let's look at the green wires. That runs to here and to here. 206, that should probably be the negative rail. So we have everything. It's not necessarily saying the capacitors are the happiest, but let's go ahead and test those. We're not testing them, but we're going to see if we have power on them. Which, 271. Let's flip this around. Here to here. 271, good. Let's flip that around again. Let's check these. 325 from here to here. 356. Got a double stack cap here. Let's test on this side of it. 0.6 negative. 0.6 negative. Again, that might not be in action until the supply is demanding something, so that's not to be ignored, but also, and we have 2 volts there. So I'm assuming these are on the back end of the regulation circuit. So we do have one black bumblebee type, I believe, that would get replaced. We have another one here. So all the caps in here really should be replaced. And I might even go as far as replacing the diodes, since they're right in my face and really could be updated anyway. We got one more across there. I wonder if that cap is no bueno. But okay, so we have our voltages, so we know we have a transformer at least this time. Let's go ahead and get this back carefully back on its bottom, and then we'll turn it off and we will unplug it. And let's get the capacitor tester out and have a look at some of these, because, or not capacitor, tube tester. So let's get this set up for a 6L6. We're going to read those first. They are still branded Heath kit, which is kind of amazing. There's a few of them in here that are still branded Heath kit. So those are OG originals. 6C, 6C, 6E, socket 1. Pop that in. Let's go ahead and warm that up. Hopefully you can see what I see. Close enough. So we'll let this warm up, get my meter out of the way since we don't need that at the moment. So far I'm happy with my purchase. This is the cheapest one I found on the internet. Actually, it was cheaper than the one that I bought that was burned up. Yay. So I'm just adjusting the line voltage for the meter. Let's check for shorts. Nothing. Let's check for leakage. It's not bad. It is reading a tiny bit of leakage, and it's reading over 100 on my scale, which Usually 110 is like brand new out of box tube, but anything over 100 is absolutely stellar, fantastic, great. So, okay. So I would say this tube is in a good operational state. Again, this is a go no go tester. These are just used for regulation. I can tell that this tube got hot. It has a bit of rainbowing around the getter spot where the other one doesn't. So, something to note. Let's go ahead and make sure that's on cal. I'm going to grab the other Heath kit box I have. Unfortunately, this one just really needs a transformer for the high volt side. That's just the unfortunate truth of it, is somebody really did a number on it. Probably had a shorted capacitor or was putting way too much of a load on it for way too long of a time, and ended up just cooking the bejesus out of it. Either that or it was in a house fire, I don't know, but had a whole bunch of people online telling me, no, those transformers don't go bad. They don't go bad. You're dreaming. Well, those meters are milted upward. They're sagging like it was upside down. And yeah, I'm gonna just say that was not good. Also, look at all the heat that was generated right below that transformer. That is not smoke from cigarettes. That is just excessive heat. And you can even see a little streakiness here, like it was probably on fire. So somebody, I would assume, doused it with water. The housing doesn't look bad though. That's the weird part about it. But I might scab the tubes out of this one. We'll see how the other 6L6 checks out here. Set that meter. No shorts. Tiny fraction of leakage, just about as much as the other one. And it's reading just a little under 100, so I would say that tube is in good shape. Good enough to use, surprisingly. Let's test out the tubes I have since I've already got the meter set up. Let's test out these two. See how they're faring. Unfortunately, I just don't know what I'm going to do with that. I might try to find a different transformer, something that will be able to kind of fit into the space or modify the housing slightly. Unfortunately, it's hard to find that transformer. It is such an oddball. They have a separate filament transformer, which is awesome, and they're isolated windings, so they're all kind of separate, which is great. And then the high volt, or the high voltage supply, is its own deal, and it has a couple of weird voltages. That one's not as happy. It's 80, 85 and slowly climbing. So this one's definitely got a bunch of use on it. I think these were original to that tester, which is kind of telling me it's been used up, and it is starting to chocolate out on the top, so not surprising. I'm just going to blast through this really quick. And this one's about 90. It's fluttering a tiny bit. 92, 93. So these are not as good as the originals that are in there. So I'll just put those right back in this housing. Who knows, maybe I'll turn this old power supply into an actual amplifier. I do not know. We shall see. Let's look at the rest of these. Let's start with this one right here. What do we have? This is a 6BH6. So let's go to that and grab those settings. 6BH6, 6E, 6E, 6A, and socket 4. That is a Slovenia branded valve or tube. So 6BH6. Yeah, so it's a simple test. Okay. Check for some leakage. Nothing really to note. Emission, it's fantastic. Good. So we'll say that one's fine. We'll put that back in its happy little home. Can't see. There we go. Put that back. Let's take a look at this. Now, I may not be able to test this. A 0A2, I think that's a gas type regulator. I don't think I can do 0 tubes on this particular tester, which is a unfortunate sign. These should have, when they're working correctly, you should be able to see a glow internally. So I'll just keep my eyeballs on that when operating it. Let's check this guy here. A 0A2, another one. And I do have a pair of 0A2s in the other tester. So those are both like gas regulators or something. This is the uh, 6X4 Heath by Mullard. So this is a diode. So let's go ahead and track that one down. We can test that. It's probably a dual diode, I'm assuming. 6X 6T 6X 6X4. So 6B 6A 4. Let that warm up. I'm assuming one of the gas regulators are probably the problem. And I'll warm the thing back up and we'll just keep our eyeballs on it. It'll be pretty clear when those don't work. They won't have a glow, like a gas discharge glow. No shorts, no leakage, good emission. Okay, let's look at the other side. 6B6F4. Let that warm back up. I have a feeling that that's probably perfectly fine. One of the regulator gas discharge regulators is probably not cooperating. Okay. No shorts. Tiny bit of leakage. Still tests perfectly fine. Let's grab the other one out of this test set and see what this one says. Out of curiosity. Grade emission. What was the other setting? The other setting was A. Yeah. Seems good. Let's just go ahead and pop that one in, I guess. I mean, they both test out fine, so I'm not really worried about it, but... The only thing I think I might have a problem with are those regulator tubes, which I have 2 of them here. I'm going to go ahead and get the tube tester out of my way, since we've gone through and we are pretty sure we have working ones that we can test. Good old Mighty Might, the Sencor TC142. Thank you, Chuck Yoyati, for this awesome tube tester. It has been doing fine work. Okay, we'll plug this back in. Put it in standby. I think that just warms up the filaments. And I'm gonna probably shut off the shop light, and I'll see if I can get this in frame where you can see what I can see. And we'll keep an eye on those 2 tubes. See if we get any glow out of them. And here we go. Alright, killing the shop light. I see a glow out of both of them. There's a little purple going on. So why are we not getting our full 400 out of this thing? That's interesting. Might have some more testing to do. But the gas discharge dealy-doos are doing their job. So all the tubes seem good, but I think we're going to go ahead and swap them out. One at a time. Okay. Same deal. Let's go to the other side. 125, still normal. Okay. Let's take that one out. Let's put this one in. Okay. Still the same deal. It's very odd that I'm not getting pulled power out of the high volt side. That could be something having to do with capacitors. We'll have to double check that. I'm not seeing anything screaming at me on the other tubes that are there being saturated. Transformer's not yelling at me. It's not scorching hot. So, okay, lights back on, watch your eyeballs. So, we know that the tubes are fine. We know that the power supply transformers are working, but we're not getting full voltage on the high volt side. So we got some work to do on this, but a little preliminary check over on this good old Heath kit supply, and we'll make it work. We will make it work. Once again, I don't think it'll take a whole lot. I mean, it's probably something simple. Obviously, it needs to be recapped. I'm going to squirt out the potentiometers with a little bit of deoxit while I'm in here. They could be cruddy. Very interesting. Also, what's interesting to me is, so that's the ground. The white wire is the positive to the high volt. That runs up to the meter, through the current meter, and back down to there. And that runs to that capacitor, which it's possible that that capacitor is no bueno. So there's a few things that could cause this problem, that's for sure. What else do we have going on here? That. No, it goes to here. So it goes right to that capacitor at 20 microfarad at 450. Pretty common rating. And that goes to the regulator tube. So we will have to do some work. I'm assuming that there's just some bad caps in here. Easy enough. I gotta order some caps. Unless I have something in stock that I could use, but probably not. Alright everybody, thanks for watching, and join me while I put together a video on repairing the Heath kit IP-32 and work through the rest of this repair, getting everything just perfectly working so that I can put it to work on the bench top. Alright everybody, thanks for joining me in a nerdy moment. We'll catch you in the next one.